Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live stream on my channel. I was like, welcome so much to this stream. No, thank you so much for coming to the stream. Welcome. If you don't know who I am, my name is Claire Fraise, and I am an award-winning author who makes videos on this channel sharing writing tips that helped me make my own writing better, just sharing resources, things that I've learned, things that I've found helpful in case that they are also helpful to you. I do these live streams just to have live Q&A sessions on the channel to make myself available to you as a resource in case you are working on a project and want to get another pair of eyes on ideas that you have, or to bounce ideas off of someone, or just if you have any questions about the writing or publishing process. I am here to answer them. And yeah, if you have any questions, I would love to chat with you, and I will just be hanging out in case you do. So I may be working on a writing project of mine during this time. If nobody has any questions, please ask away. But if nobody has any questions, I have started outlining a new project, and I'm really excited about that. I wrote the first 10,000 words just to get to know the setting and the characters, but then found that it was a very plot heavy book and it was hard for me to pants my way through the plotting section. But I also struggled to go back and like outline everything before I knew who the cast was. So I did something a little different because usually I always plot before I start writing, but I started writing this time just to figure out who the cast and what was happening in the setting. And now I'm going back to the drawing board and outlining. So yeah, I am excited about that project. But oh, it seems like some people are already here. Um, yes, I guess I can see messages from before the live if you posted that before the live. So hi, thank you so much for coming and welcome. Oh, awesome! Thank you so much for coming to this one. I'm so glad that you could make it. And oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you so much for reading it. I'm so glad that you liked it. I really loved that book. I really enjoyed writing The Hunt and had so much fun working on it. So that makes me really happy that you enjoyed it. And thank you and welcome to the live. If you have any writing projects that you're working on, if you have anything at all that I could help with, or I need to talk to you about, talk with you about, I don't even know. I'm tired today. Yeah, let me know. Same. That was my favorite part of this book to write. I loved writing that subplot. Um, and watching his growth over the course of that story and just working out how that could interact in their relationship in the book. And I don't want to like give spoilers, but how what happened to Jonah could impact his relationship with Shiloh, and how I could use that as like a plot tool to grow their relationship. And that was just so much fun to work on. So I'm very, very, very glad that you enjoyed that. um Yes. Oh, we got a question. Chrome Vader asked, how do you go about getting beta readers? And at what point in drafting do you start seeking beta reader feedback? This is a great question. Um, so when I first, like before I started publishing, I found beta readers through Goodreads and Facebook. I joined a bunch of groups on Facebook and Goodreads that were like beta readers wanted or seeking beta readers. And I just posted in the groups and asked if anybody would be interested in beta reading my project. I have done critique swaps in the past, so a lot of people in these groups will ask and offer to beta read your project if you beta read their project. And that's a fun way to get beta readers. But I've found that it's like the people who do critique swaps don't typically want to join like a beta reading team. So the people that have joined my team have been people that who have been interested in beta reading my project when I posted to the forums and have stuck around and read multiple books in the series. I now, I think for book 5, I'm going to end up seeing if I'm going to offer beta reading to my ARC team because I have quite a enthusiastic advanced review team, and see if any of them are interested in reading book 5 during the development process, and expanding my beta team for book 5, but it's harder when you're writing a long series because you need your beta readers to be familiar with the previous material, so I don't have as many readers to pull from, so I've just been using the same beta readers, as, like, or the same beta readers I started with when I started working on the series, or I've, found people here and there who really love the series and wanted to jump on the beta reading team, so that's how I do it, but it was just a lot of, like, posting to forums and trying to connect with people that way, but Goodreads and Facebook both have them, and I found beta readers on both, and they have been great. For me personally, I like drafting in a very protected space. I don't like other people's voices coming in while I'm in, like, my initial creative process, because I just feel like everything is so fragile at that stage, and I'm just still feeling out what I want the book to be and what journeys I want the characters to go on, and I'm just like, all of my ideas are still little tiny fledgling ideas, and I don't want any outside feedback, like, I wanna give it my best shot before I have any outside voices come in. So, I typically look for beta reader feedback after I've completed 1 pass of revisions on the story, and I feel like this is pretty much, or not necessarily 1 pass of revisions, but once I feel like the story is complete and I have revised it and it's, like, pretty much as good as I can get it without anybody else reading it, and that my next revisions, like, and that I'm ready for that. Like, I want to have spent enough time and effort and energy on that draft so that it's ready for other people's feedback to come to me and be helpful. I don't want to send a book out if I already have a lot of things in my head that I know I need to change. Like, I don't want people to spend the time to read the book, like, take the time to read the book and then give me a comment and have me just take that comment and be like, "Oh, I already knew that I had to do that. That's already on my list of revisions." I wanna make sure that it's as polished as I can make it within reason, without getting too crazy about it before sending it off. So, it's an individual, it varies from project to project, but and it's not perfect. Like, sometimes books will be, just because of timelines and deadlines, they'll be in kind of rougher states when I send them out to beta readers. Sometimes it can be rough, but I do like to I feel like I owe it to my beta readers to make as much of an effort myself before sending it to them. So, um, yeah, let's see. Do we have more comments? I would love it if you beta read for me. If you could actually email me, my email is clairefraisebooks@gmail.com. I have it in the description of this video. And let me know that so that I have your email address. I can add you to my beta reading little e-list so that when book 5 is ready for beta reading, I can send it to you. So that would be really exciting. Um, all right, let's see. Um, Oh, yes. Oh, yes, okay, yeah, yeah, just I mean with the beta request, just so I can make sure that, I have the right email and everything and that it's all current and up to date. Yay, that's so exciting. Alrighty. Um, how do you manage balance writing time and social media, post-production promotions? Do you use free write? Not well is the answer when I'm on a deadline. That's why, like, I will just go dark on YouTube and not post for a month if I'm on a deadline, and I just because it's too much to try to juggle everything. I am an author first. I always prioritize writing over social media and YouTube, just because that's the reason that I'm on YouTube is to talk about writing. So I need to be writing first. So I do my best to be consistent on YouTube. I don't always do a very good job, but I try to prioritize creating content and creating a backlog of content on times where I'm not actively on a deadline. So right now, for example, when I'm not actively, like, I mean, I'm working on projects, but I'm not about to release anything. It's not really stressful. I have more time to record videos and to work on social media and to kind of get it ready and prepped for when I'm going to be on a deadline and in a harder position later. So I try to take advantage of the different phases of the drafting process and be strategic about when I'm filming and creating content versus writing. It's not something that I can do like every day. Like back when I was doing the whisper and I had a little bit more time on my hands, I would always be like in the morning I would write, in the afternoons I would mark it and I would split it up day by day. Now I don't split it up day by day, and I will spend days where I just film a bunch of videos, and I'll spend days where I just write and I don't do anything else and try to do it that way. I'll try to film, like if I'm doing TikTok, I will film once a week, and then I will just edit those TikToks over the course of the week and post them. But I just want to spend, 5 to 10 minutes on it a day, nothing crazy. And I try to limit it just because I am such an introvert that social media is hard for me. And it takes a lot of effort and energy to put myself out on social media. And so that is a little bit of a hurdle when I'm trying to be consistent. So oftentimes I'll fall off and not like fall off my posting schedule and not be super current. But it's all organic and I'm doing my best, and it never has to be perfect. And I think that there is now this expectation on authors because of the rise of social media that in order to be a best-selling successful author, you also have to be a content creator. And I think this is a profession and a like some it's a profession and a hobby and a thing that we love to do, and it attracts people that don't necessarily like being content creators. It attracts a lot of introverts. And so those two things don't necessarily go hand in hand, but I'm out here trying my best. But yeah, so the answer to your question is sometimes better than other times. And I've heard good things about free write. Is that the little keyboard thing with the tiny screen and you just write and it saves it to the something, but you don't see it all on the page? Because I've heard really great things about that. I just haven't used it. I've almost bought one, but then I haven't. I've almost bought one, but then I just turned on my Scrivener like concentrate mode. But I'm very curious. So yeah. Um, all right. Let's see. If I want to show the same scene from two characters' point of view, but I'm doing a main character point of view as my main approach, how should I go about that? Um, so I typically don't personally, I have never split up a scene from two people's points of view. I've always done alternating points of view with alternating scenes. So one character narrates one scene and a different character narrates the next scene. I think that it's a little bit less like because every time you switch a point of view, it's jarring for the reader. So I think that when you are writing dual point of view as the author, it's your job to figure out what information the reader needs to know and which character is the best character to deliver that piece of information. Like, why do each parts of the scene need to be told from that character's point of view? And if it's really, really, really necessary, is the person like which character is more necessary? Like, could the same scene just be told from one character's point of view? If it has to be two characters' points of view, I would try to split it up in the most natural stopping point and just try to smooth it out as best as you could, as best you can. But it is always going to be a little jarring when people are jumping heads, at least in my experience as a reader and a writer. So it's a little bit tricky. Sorry, I think my I have a very like fearful puppy that I rescued a couple months ago, and he likes to walk around and growl at things like boxes and salt and pepper shakers and things that he's not quite familiar with. So he's walking around doing that now, if that's what you hear in the background. So yeah, I hope that that helps. I would say if this were me, I would do everything I could to avoid switching in the middle of a scene and just do a little bit of analysis to try to figure out which parts of the scene need to be from which characters, and if there's any way that you could avoid that by just sticking to one. Um, cool. We got a question. I'm a teenager and writing a book. Do you have any tips for publishing a book as a teen? Why, yes, I do. I published my debut novel when I was 16, and it was one of the best experiences of my entire life. And it's wonderful, and I loved it so much, and I'm grateful every day to have had that experience. I have made a lot of videos on this channel. I have so many thoughts about this. I've made videos sharing my experience as a teen author, like everything that I did. I have made videos interviewing other teen authors who have shared their process for how they published a book as a teen. So all those interviews, I have a playlist on my channel and it's called like How to Publish Your Book as a Teen. And so I would recommend going and checking those out because I am way more articulate in those videos than I am at the moment. um, all right. If I want to juggle drafting two books simultaneously, how should I go about it? This is really tricky. So I have never been able to do this successfully. I've tried to do it, but it takes so much focus and effort to write a book that I've found that if I divide it, I just feel like it makes both projects end up taking a lot longer to be completed and it's a lot harder to get into the projects. Like I write the best personally when I'm laser focused on one project and one thing and I can see that project through until the end and really get immersed in that world. Um, is there a reason that you need to write the two books simultaneously? I also think that this trying to juggle multiple books at once is a common way to lose momentum when you're going through a project. Like if it gets hard, you just go to the other one. And that makes it a lot easier to get stuck in different parts of the book and it makes it harder to complete the book. So I would recommend, if it were me, just focusing on one and just trying to power through until the end of one, finishing it, and then moving on to the next one. But that is just what works for me in my experience. um, let's see. Um, have you read the craft book Romancing the Beat? No, I haven't, but I've heard good things about it. Um, I will write that down. I'm always looking for new craft books to check out. I just got a couple of new ones for Christmas, but I haven't read them yet. I find it really difficult, or I have been finding it difficult lately to sit down and read print books. I've been diving into audiobooks and I've been getting really excited about that, but I've just found it hard to actually sit down and flip through pages, but I have written it down. I will go check that out. Um, but oh yeah, so I'll have to get back to you on this one because I haven't read that book. Um, but yeah, well, so generalizing this question a little bit outside of this particular book, like how do you weave one set of structure beats with something else, like your 3 or 5 act structures or the Save the Cat? I think that you can, as the author, create your own story structure that you like and pick and choose which beats you like. And those are the beats that you can use in your story. You don't need to use every single beat from every single story structure. Every story structure, like, I mean, every writer is going to gravitate towards a different story structure, and different story structures are going to work better for different people. Like, when I write my books, generally like to follow a I have my 5 plot points that I really like the point of entry, the inciting incident, the midpoint, the climax, and the resolution. And that's kind of my general framework for my story. But I also really love the hero's journey. So I'll put different plot points in the hero's journey, like the crossing the threshold and the meeting the mentor, and I'll slot those in between those. And then have like the 3 act structure on top of that and pick and choose what I want to have from all of these different plot structures. And that is how I like to think about mine. So I think that all of these different plot structures are great suggestions and they're great ways to think about it, but they're not the only way to think about it. And it's really easy for us to remix the different plot structures and create something that works the best for us. Um, let's see. Thank you so much for coming by the live stream. Thank you so much for watching it. And I'm so happy that you enjoy my videos and enjoy coming and hanging out on the live streams. It means a lot to me that you're here. Thank you. Um, and thank you also for coming to the stream. I really appreciate you guys for coming and for chatting with me. I've really been enjoying doing these and talking about writing in real time like this. It's really fun to get to engage with you all in this way. Let's see. Um, we got some more comments. Um, no, I absolutely feel you there. I always find it tricky to get involved in the comments on live streams and things. But thank you so much for coming, and I really appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for commenting. And I'm so glad that you're writing, and that's really cool that you wrote a YA story, and that's really cool. Um, oh, and you found a possible beta reader. That's awesome. That's really exciting. Congratulations. Beta readers are great. How did you find the beta reader through Goodreads or Facebook or one of those beta reading platforms, or did you find the beta reader elsewhere? I get this question a lot. I've been getting this question on, I think the past 2 or 3, maybe the past 2 streams, we've had questions about how to find beta readers. So I think a lot of people are wondering about that. Um, let's see. Is it common to feel like, "Oh gosh, this is too simple, I need to make it more complicated while playing and drafting?" Um, I think in some cases, it definitely can be. Um, I think that I mean, this is a very general question because in a lot of cases, simple is really good, and in some cases, like in your plotting and in your climax, you want to make things a little bit more complicated so that they're not predictable. But I think that in most cases, keeping things simple and not arbitrarily overcomplicating things is a good way to be. So erring on the side of keeping things simple is probably the way to go. um, but I mean, it depends what it is. If you have a scene that you're thinking about when asking this question, oh, you said in mystery and thriller. Um, Again, I mean, so is it, or do you mean in a plotting sense, like in a um like this is too simple because it's too obvious that this character would have done this for this reason, so I have to make it more complicated? Because if it's in that sense, I fully advocate for making things a little bit more convoluted. Like you want to make sure to keep your story readers guessing and like every time and play with their expectations a little bit. So if you think that it's too simple and they're going to believe one character is the one behind it or they're the culprit or they're the one that committed the crime, you want to have a couple of reversals that are like actually it wasn't that character or it was that character but it was more complicated than that and they did this thing and add some layers to it because I think people read mysteries and thrillers to try to decode the mystery and solve the mystery before the characters can. And so you want to make sure that you create a mystery capable of supporting that and create a mystery that can stump the people who read it for the sake of solving the mystery. So from a plot, but if you want to expand on it or specify um, what you mean by that question, I can definitely elaborate on it. Um, Ask me more writing questions. I'm gonna go grab some water. I'll be back. Hello, thank you so much for coming to the stream. Do you have any questions about writing or publishing or projects that you're working on? If so, drop them in the comments. I'm here to chat about writing, and I'd love to hear about what you're working on. My dogs are going crazy right now. They're like bombing around and playing with each other, and it's like always this time of day. They're getting their like second wind right after dinner. Oh, we got a question. What's your favorite part of the process? I love plotting. I love plotting too. That's my favorite part of the process. Drafting is always stressful for me because I always feel like I have that little voice in the back of my head just wanting the scene to be perfect and wanting the book to be perfect when the book is not perfect yet. It's just a first draft. So I always feel like I'm battling perfectionism as I'm drafting, at least in the first draft. but I love plotting because that's like, you plot before you write, you plot before you put pen to paper, and yeah, I plotting is my favorite, and I love creating my plot grids and getting really into the plotting and construction of the story. I like putting stories together in puzzle like they're puzzles and piecing everything together. So, yeah, I'm on the same page as you. Um, let's see. I write thrillers. Do you keep an idea notebook? How do you pick an idea and brainstorm that enough to then decide that's what you want to write about? So I've been writing the same series now for 5 or 6 years. So it's been a while that I've been working on the same story. I'm just now starting to try to figure out what I'm going to be doing after this series is done. So I'm not the most experienced in developing ideas and like figuring out what I want to write about. So I'm actually kind of just going through that now. I don't really remember because it was 6 years ago. I mean, I remember how this day came to be, but it's been long enough now that I don't remember firsthand how that felt to, like, which ideas I picked and how I brainstormed around them and when I knew that this was a story that I really wanted to write. I do keep an idea notebook. I listen to or it's not an idea notebook, it's like a tab on my Notion, because I use Notion to organize a lot of things, and I have a tab on my Notion that is just random ideas, like if I'm reading, if I'm watching movies, if I'm walking around, if I see somebody, if I'm people watching, just like things that capture my attention, I just write them down. Or if I have an emotional reaction to something in a story or in a movie or something that I'm consuming, I write it down just because I try to notice the things that affect me in some way in the media that I consume. Um, so I do that, and I listened to this really great podcast maybe 2 years ago. It was, I think, done I forget who did this. I'll have to look up the name of the podcast because it was fantastic. It was done by the Romance Writers of America. I think it was RWA, and this woman was on, and she was talking about psychology in writing and how writing and, like, she likes to think about writing as, like, creating the most, like, delicious piece of cheesecake for her readers, and that her philosophy with writing is that she wants to create something that is as pleasurable for the reader as possible. Because most people read to enjoy, like, for pleasure, like, they want to get some sort of pleasurable reaction out of reading your story, unless you're, reading like writing textbooks or something. But most fiction they read for pleasure. So it's your job as the author to make it as pleasurable as possible. And she broke it down into some categories, and she said like these psychologically are the categories that speak to people's psyches in some way that just like make people react to just people viscerally psychologically react to these things. And the categories I think were like competition, power, wealth, beauty, touch, um danger, and like maybe one or two other things. And she said all the most successful stories employ these different categories and play with these themes in some way. And she recommended in that podcast to create like an id list, like things that just appeal to your id for some reason, like just things that you really like that you derive a lot of pleasure from while reading and writing, and just keep a running tab of those things so that you can pull from those things when you're coming up with future ideas for stories. And I have an id list. I've been keeping one, but I haven't ever, like, gone to my list and be like, "I need to create a story out of these things." So, I can't really speak to that, but I can get back to you once I have had more experience with doing that, because I'm in the trenches and doing that right now. It's kind of stressful. Um, I've just been working on the same thing for so long that I keep trying to think about who I want to be as a writer, who I wanna be as an artist, what I like writing separate from this series, like where my ideas lie, and just I don't know. It's challenging to try and differentiate the big picture. Like this is what I want my like these are the types of books that I want to myself to write versus like these are the ideas for random projects that I have and like trying to make the two mesh together. Um I have different ideas and start putting it. Yeah, I'm kind of in that space now too, coming up with different ideas and fleshing them out and trying to figure out which ones appeal to me, but I think that that's really normal. Like I've been writing the same series now for so long that I know all the characters and I understand what the conflict is and what the plot is and everything. So it's just easy for me to pick up and continue with a series. But it's been a while since I've just come up with something out of nothing. So, but it's also a really exciting process, just feeling out different projects and seeing if you like them enough to really make this your life for a while. I'm working on a sci-fi novel. My outline of the first chapter is nearly complete. I appreciate your advice from the last Q&A. Oh, yeah, thank you so much for coming to the last Q&A. I'm so happy that my advice was helpful, and that's really exciting that your outline is nearly complete. Congrats. Um, let's see. Um, how does is that distant whispers? Um, I think that it would sound better as distant whispers instead of Dostant whispers. But if it's distant whispers, yeah, I like that. I mean, I've named one of my books They Whisper. I like the word whisper, and I think that that's creepy. It depends what kind of genre it is. There are always like keywords that you want to keep in mind when you're writing different genres. Like if you're writing horror, using more like earthy words, like I mean, not these, but more ones that feel like blood and rot and perish and haunt and ghost and like those kinds of words for your titles, but like whispers is kind of ghostly and eerie. Um, and I think distant whispers would indicate some sort of creepy, darker vibes than like I wouldn't call a cutesy contemporary romance distant whispers, but it sounds catchy. It depends which genre you're writing in. Um, but let's see. Um, Yeah, I've been in writing workshops for about 10 years now in my community college. I'm about to start writing my 6th novel, be horror. Nice, that's awesome. That's very exciting. Congratulations, and I wish you all the best on your, 6th novel. That's really awesome. Um, let's see. Yes, of course I remember you, and I remember your opening, and I'm really glad that my advice helped. That's awesome. Um and it says, "I am in the middle of the book plotting." That's really awesome. I'm really happy that the advice helped, and I really did think that that opening was very good and very visceral, and it really showed the emotion. Like, you can really picture what the character was going through, and you could feel that kind of fear of waking up in that situation, and no, that's really exciting. I'm really glad that I could help. Um Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for reading them. I'm really glad that you've enjoyed them, and I'm so happy that you're almost done with They Hunt. Um, After book 5, are you considering a spin-off or stories that are within the same universe? So, I have multiple ideas for spin-off series in this same world. One of them is historical fiction, and if you've read the series, you can probably guess what this series would be. I'm really, really interested in doing this, but I don't know enough about that time. Like, I it would be a mountain of research, and I don't know enough. Like, I've never written historical fiction before, and I feel like it would be really stressful to try to get all of the historical details right. Because it's like when you're writing contemporary fiction or fantasy, it's really easy. You can either just, like, make up where they go eat and, like, where they go to the bathroom and what they eat and, like, where they wash their hands, and in historical fiction, you have to like, every little tiny detail takes research. Um, but that idea is also very compelling to me, so I don't know, maybe I will one day do that, I'm not sure. I have a novella I'm actually working on now, and I will be releasing at some point this year. I know I said that last year, but I will be releasing it this year. It has a cover, it has everything designed, it has a plot, I know what it's gonna be about. And that's set within the same universe, not within not with the same characters. Um, but it's a prequel novella. It has the same antagonist. It's kind of like a prequel to the main series. So that is cool. I like that story. But yeah, I don't know. I'm considering. I also I'm gonna have a hard time, I think, letting these characters go because I've lived with them for such a long time that I'm already like, well, maybe I'll just write an extended epilogue set 5 years into the future, and like I can just come back and revisit where they are. But I think I also might need to probably broaden my horizons a little bit before I write extended epilogue after extended epilogue. I mean, I'll probably end up writing stuff when I miss them. I'll be like, you know, it's the 5 year, like, 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, like track them for the rest of their lives. But yeah, I'm figuring it out. But I have a lot of ideas, and I just love this world, and I love these characters so much that they really feel like hanging out with friends. Like I'm very endeared to them. And now that I'm starting to sketch out ideas for different projects in different worlds, it just makes me realize how much I love them and how much I'm gonna miss them. It just feels like I'm, getting to know these random strangers instead of these like characters in the They Stay series that feel like real 3D fleshed out people to me. Um, I'm glad that you would read it. I don't know if you're gonna want to if I have all these historical inaccuracies, but maybe at some point I'll write it. I don't know. I have a plot, I have a vision. I think it would be a really, really cool series. We'd get, like, the characters well, I can't. I don't wanna talk about that too long, but yeah. I'm glad that you would read it. Um, I'm also writing a prequel to one of my thrillers, so I feel you on research. Oh, I haven't read any. I haven't read that. Is that an author? I haven't read any of Ken Follett. But yeah, it's just like the historical stuff is tough. I had a creative writing professor in college who said that he had no rules for his creative writing group. He was like, you can write whatever you want at whatever length. Like we, you can, we, I have absolutely no rules on what you can write. You can write novels, you can write short stories, you can write whatever you want to. The only thing that I will not allow you to write is you cannot write historical fiction because I don't want to have to talk to you about it in office hours. He was like, I am doing you a favor by saying you are not allowed to write historical fiction. Trust me, it's the worst. Um, so yeah, I'm a little nervous about that. Or not nervous about historical fiction, but anticipating the workload. Oh, okay. Cool, yeah, alright, I'll write that down too on things to check out. I love getting all of these recommendations. I always leave these live streams with things to check out too, so that's really exciting. Um, alright, so I think we're gonna have to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, but I will see if I can get to the rest of our questions. Um, I have a scene idea notebook, but sometimes they get lost. Now I have writer's block and can't remember what I plotted before. What do I do? Um, I so your ideas get lost, um, or your I'm sorry, I don't know if I completely understand what you mean. Do you mean that the ideas in your notebook get lost, or um, or do you write in your notebook and then you lose the pages? Is that what happens? Like, you write them down, but then you lose them, like, you lose the physical copy and you can't remember what you wrote? Because in that case, it really, really stinks. That is the worst feeling ever, like, when it doesn't save. Oh, your ideas in your notebook. Well, maybe start trying to write down ideas on the computer. That way you don't lose the physical copies. That might help because I know that when I spend time writing something and like Word bugs out or doesn't save, it drives me absolutely crazy and it just makes me lose all my motivation if I've already written something and then I have to go write it again. It's just the worst feeling. So I don't blame you for losing your motivation and if you can't remember what you plotted before. So I think creating a system where it's less likely that you're going to continue to lose your work would be good. if you could do it on the computer, or like as soon as you finish writing something in your notebook, take a picture of it or do something to record it in that way. Find some way to save that work, or like invest in an Apple AirTag and you can clip that to your notebook and then you can track your notebook if you lose it so you can go back and find it. Just kind of create a system for your writing and storage of ideas that will make things easier for you to go back and get your writing, because it's really, really frustrating, and I'm sorry that you keep losing your notebooks and your ideas. Um, let's see. How does "Those Beyond the Forest" sound? Also creepy. I think that that sounds very horror-y to me, like, I imagine, or like, yeah, that sounds, I don't know, or maybe it's just because I write thrillers and spooky books, but I'm picturing kind of a cover with foggy trees and, like, creepy figures, like, over beyond the trees, like, it sounds very eerie, potentially post-apocalyptic, or, like, post-apocalyptic and culty, I don't know, it's got creepy vibes, but I like it. I think that's a really compelling title. Um, my first book is titled Old Blood. It's dark fantasy. Yeah, see, blood is a keyword in like dark fantasy and horror. If the title has blood in it, it's typically not going to be a contemporary romance, or trying to think of other examples. I mean, I keep saying contemporary romance because to me it's like the antithesis of horror. But yeah, blood is a great horror keyword. Um, let's see. I like book titles that use oxymorons like loud whispers, a perishable eternity. Yeah, I like those too. That is a cool way to create a title. Um, I'm so glad that you liked this live. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad that you were able to make it to this one. This was really awesome. Um, and we got another comment. Oh yeah, well that's fair enough. I've never heard of that book, so I don't know, but it's tricky. It's always funny to me how, like, people can't actually copyright titles. Like, you could name your novel Wuthering Heights, and that's, like, something you could do. It's fine, but it's just confusing. So, like, for clarity and just general not confusing readers reasons, it's better to not do that. But I just find that really funny. Like, I could write a book called The Great Gatsby and just publish it, and that's, like, totally fine. But, yeah. Anyway, I am going to end this live. Thank you all so much for coming and for asking me your wonderful questions. This was really fun. I really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, this live stream, like and subscribe. I'm really grateful for you taking the time to come here and to ask me questions and hang out with me tonight. So, yeah, thank you all so much. And I will be going live again next week on Wednesday. So, if you are interested in coming to that, you can come to that too. All right. Bye, everybody.